This is Maurice Jones-Drew, and you're listening to the What's Bruin Show.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, UCLA, fight.
You're listening to the What's Bruin Show, part of the What's Bruin Show Network, with your hosts, Jake Merrifield, Bill Shirley, Jamaal Artis, and Mike Regalado, bringing you anything and everything UCLA sports. And now, it's time for the What's Bruin Show.
Well, hello and welcome to What's Bruin. I am your host, Jake Merrifield, and in a few moments, I will be joined by my good friend and co-host, Mike Regalado.
Mike Regalado.
And we'll be coming to you talking about the Crosstown Showdown, a sad Crosstown Showdown. Originally, we planned to have a bunch of guests on here. Our BFFs from Reign of Troy Radio, Michael Castillo, and the Penguin of Troy, Alicia D'Artola. But alas, that was planned for Tuesday night. We're supposed to go out and all get something to eat and have a nice time. And then, unfortunately, some family events forced me to cancel all that, and we were kind of left twisting in the wind a little bit. I was able to go on Michael and Alicia's live show last night, so you can catch that on their stream, on their YouTube, or on their Apple feed, and that was a lot of fun. I was on there for about 30, 40 minutes talking about the Crosstown Showdown, so that'll be your crossover talk for this year, unfortunately. But Mike will be getting on here in just a few minutes, and we will do our own What's Bruin Crosstown Showdown talk for you this week. And, of course, that's probably the, not the biggest thing that's been on people's minds after UCLA dropped that game to ASU. Rampant speculation that UCLA is negotiating a buyout of some sort with Chip Kelly and have him leave the program at some point. We don't know whether that would be after the USC game or after the season's concluded. We don't even know if that's actually going to happen or if it really is true. At this point, this is all just rumors so far, but it certainly would seem to be believable if it happened, right? And if you want to relive some of the frustration that the ASU game caused, just look no further than our two post-game shows, my avant-garde call-in shows that I published over the weekend. One was about 6 minutes long and just had voice drops from some of your calls that were just immediate reactions in the moment. And the second was a good half hour of your calls. And once again, I want to thank you for your calls to the hotline, 805-399-4WBS, Second Reign of Troy. That was, obviously I was down just like the rest of you after the result of that game, and being able to put together a call-in show where we all voiced our frustrations was actually a fun thing for me to do, and I enjoyed doing it. If you turned it on and you're like, oh crap, the audio is all screwed up. No, that's how it was supposed to be. It was, in case you didn't figure it out, it was backwards at the beginning, and then at the end it reverses, and there is a Beatles playing the record backwards sort of message at the back end of that thing if you hung on for the whole thing. I had to do something to cheer myself up, so that's what it was, putting secret messages about UCLA football into our podcast, so enjoy that for what it is. Once again, I want to thank everybody that called for that. This is the What's Bruin Symposium on the What's Bruin Show Network, and we thank you for your support. whatsbruinshow@gmail.com is the email. We have some emails. There's some listener feedback later in the show. That is all emails because I got all the calls out on during the post-game shows. And please email the show and let us know what you think. whatsbruin.substack.com is our Substack. You can subscribe on there, and you can also be a free subscriber, and you'll get notifications of all the articles, basically mostly podcasts. I published a couple articles there this fall, but you'll also get pictures that go along with the show. So tonight I'm planning on putting a picture of the drinks that we're drinking, and I have a picture of the sports godfather Jim Bendat at center court with the St. Maryland from the UCLA basketball game last night. And of course that's relevant for this show because Jim is going to come in and revise his Chip Kelly welcome song that he made all the way back in 2018, and it's a nice revision. I think it's fitting. So once again, there'll be pictures on the Substack they're relevant to that week's show. When we did the Arizona trip, I put a bunch of pictures from our road trip and we were talking about on there, and those pictures are going to be on the Substack. It's hard to publish them in any good way on our Patreon. That's patreon.com/whatsbruinshow or just whatsbruinshow.com. You can, of course, subscribe and get bonus content there as well, but if you want to see the photos, and they're available for anybody, free subscribers or not, it's going to be on the Substack. And also, we're on YouTube. Just type What's Bruin Show into your YouTube browser or into your search bar, and we will come up. And we appreciate your support on there too. Please like, subscribe to the show. We don't do a live show yet. It's accompanied by a slideshow, but at some point maybe we will do a live show. I don't know. I've always said absolutely not. But it's so much fun going on to Raina Troy, and we do have a good time, and Michael has such fancy graphics on there. So if I can ever get that under control, maybe we will add some sort of small component of a live show into our repertoire. But nothing yet. Nothing yet. Right now, it's a slideshow, and you just enjoy whatever audio is on the podcast feed. Lastly, the hotline, 805-399-4WBS. Second Raina Troy. Once again, I was on their show 2 days ago, or last night. So go listen to that. But call the hotline. Let us know what you think. Of course, after leading into the Crosstown Showdown, coming out of the Crosstown Showdown, I will play your calls on the post game if you call in early enough. And if not, it'll get played on the next bigger show, which is midweek. Last but not least, I know I said the hotline was last, but last but not least, we also have WBS merch that is on a My Locker site, mylocker.net/shop/what's-bruin. That's a mouthful, so it is in the show notes. But if you want to get any What's Bruin swag with our logos or anything, it is there. You can get it on, sweatsuits and mugs and hats and all sorts of things. So that's there for you too. So thank you very much for listening. Let's get to Mike Regalado next.
Big applause, Big Mike.
Iron Mike.
And see what he's up to and talk about the Crosstown Showdown and possibly the demise of Chip Kelly's career at UCLA. Or maybe not. Who knows?
Didn't you say in your resume that you did 4 years at UCLA?
Yes. Technically, if you consider Bel Air an extension of the campus, which everybody does.
All right, well, we now have our good friend Mike Regalado on the show.
Big applause, Big Mike.
From Bruin Report Online and my co-host here on the What's Bruin Show. Thank you very much, Mikey. How are you doing tonight? It's been a long day for both of us.
It's been a long week.
Yeah, no
It's
kidding.
been quite crazy. We're in a glass box of emotions, Jake.
Yeah. I've come around to understanding that everything that exists is born for no reason, carries on living through weakness, and dies by accident, Mike. That's where I'm at right now.
Wow. Nice.
I'm not quite that dark, but I'm reading a thing on Jamaal Sartre, so there you go. That's my favorite quote from him.
I was like, you okay? You're getting Mike Regalado level of darkness.
Yeah, right, dude. I'm ready to start a goth band. Let's go. So, Mikey, let's. How should we do this? Let's talk about the game that was very, very briefly. I already said what I had to say on via recorded phone calls to the show. You did as well. But if we have anything to add about that before we move on to the news about, or any news about the coaching situation with our friend Chip Kelly, and then beyond that, let's get to the Crosstown Showdown after that. So let me play the game that was intro, and we can hopefully put that tragedy to rest. All right, Mike, did you open your beer yet? Because I think we need a drink when we talk about this thing.
Oh, let's do that now.
Yeah.
I'll send you that picture, but I got myself a Lagunitas IPA.
Oh, very good. Yeah, this game was just shameful.
Oh, and by the
Shameful.
way, if for those of you who have not heard it, and I understand why, because it was a very horrible situation, a very bad loss. God, like dear God, this had to be the worst Chip Kelly loss in his tenure.
Yeah, I can't think of any worse.
But thank God for Jacob Merrifield, who I gave him a mean nickname earlier, which I will never say again. But
That's good. I appreciate that, Mike.
That's because you were almost traitor mode, Jake.
That's
but
right.
seriously, if you haven't heard it, listeners, check it out, because Jake did a freaking fantastic job making a depressing situation artsy and weird and fun. So check that out.
I appreciate that plug, Mike. And I talked about it a few minutes ago as well. And go listen to the post game. 2 different post games. One's 6 minutes, one's 30 minutes long, and it's all your calls. So thank you much for that. Now, Mikey, just real briefly, that ASU loss was absolutely dreadful, terrible, kind of no excuse for it. That's kind of where we both landed on that game, right?
Yes. It's the fact that you're having a running back and a tight end splitting quarterback duties because ASU doesn't have any and that beats you with a gimmick swinging gate formation. And the fact that Chip Kelly's offense, which is dictated by the ability to run the ball, they couldn't even do that. The fact that they only have one touchdown in that game, what is that? The third, I want to say second or third game this year where there's only been one touchdown by
Third
UCLA.
game. Yeah.
What the heck? But yeah, it was. I don't want to get too much into it because we're past it. We've got to talk about other stuff. It was just depressing, and rightfully so. It was just quite atrocious.
It really was, and and it really comes down to losing to that particular spastic ASU team,
The spastic Arizona State team.
and it really does go to prove your expression, your rule of life that whatever team scores the most points.
So I think it's whatever offense manages to score more points.
Well, that was Kenny Dillingham's offense and his weird, wacky, kind of goofy offense that really didn't do that much, but it did enough because Kelly could not, our offensive genius could not put together anything good enough to grind out any sort of points against that Arizona State team, and that was their demise, really, because the defense played very much so well enough to win. The offense did not hold up its end of the bargain for the definitely, it's been a number of times this year, but certainly for, certainly the second game in a row. And you think about the Utah game, that's the other one that's a glaring one where they just didn't do anything right. And those are the games you're talking about where they only scored one touchdown in each of those games. So just really depressing. And I think we don't really need to say too much more about it. Let's put that one to bed and let's hopefully never have to think about it again, considering that now that's the last time we're going to play Sparky, at least for the foreseeable future. So yeah, it is a shame, like ending the Arizona schools with a double loss right in a row. Right, that is kind of, it is shameful, and we'll give the shame one more time for that.
Shame.
Yeah.
Shame. Shame.
But now it's gone, and let's never speak of it again. So with that being said, let's get to some breaking news. That's not really breaking.
What's brewing?
Breaking news on a weekly basis.
News just in.
So, Mike, if we talk about what Bro has reported regarding in the last few days about the Chip Kelly situation, I think Ben Bolch waited on this as well. He had his account on the Bro board, right? Is that where some of that was coming from?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if you could just summarize it in a few sentences, where do we think that we're at with whatever the kind of ambiguous situation is with Kelly heading into the Crosstown Showdown right now, according to Bro and or Ben Bolch?
The situation has turned dire for Chip Kelly, who is currently at 33-33 at UCLA. And someone pointed this out too, which, pile it on. Why not? Chip Kelly is 31-33 against FCS teams.
FBS.
FBS. Yeah. Thank you very much. So that's not a good look. And then you add on top of it, as I just said, probably the worst loss in his tenure. You lose to a team that has been in last place for a good chunk of the season. You can't produce any offense. Your defense. There's talk of disunity amongst the defense and offense. Obviously Chip Kelly keeps things, close to the chest, but when things leak out, it raises questions. And, obviously sources are sources. So we're not going to know anything until an actual formal announcement is made. But one Mr. Tracy Pearson came out and said that UCLA is looking to
Mike Regalado.
No, Tracy Pearson.
That's right.
is looking to part ways with Chip Kelly, and it could be this weekend. It could be after the Cal game.
Mike,
Yeah.
What we've heard was that the buyout was $8 million until you get to like mid-December, and then it goes down to like $4 million. The way that I was thinking about it, and tell me if I'm mischaracterizing it or if it's not, if I'm thinking about it the wrong way, but it seemed like when saying they're going into negotiations, it's like, okay, well, they want to get it done. They don't want to drag it out. So maybe they'll settle somewhere in like the $6 million range and just call it a day. Is that kind of the impression that you get, or am I wrong there? Not to say the number's right, but that's what they're negotiating. They're like figuring out how to do this without having to wait until mid-December, if that's in fact what they're going to do.
Yeah, and obviously this is all like speculation until we find out what really happens. But it's either way, it just seems like the end is nigh for Chip Kelly's tenure at UCLA, and it's. You kind of want to feel bad for him, but at the same time, it's like, you're paying any coach that is getting paid a shit ton of money to improve the team and they don't. Well, of course you're going to get canned. Like that's your one job, is to win. And when you don't, any school needs to move on. Chip Kelly, he had time. It's 6 years. Even I was one of the people that were like, he's improving every year. I said this on the post game that I sent to you. He's improved his winning percentage every year, and things are looking good. But there was questions going into this season, and it's just not. It didn't happen for Chip Kelly, and he's the only one to blame for all of this because he is the head coach. It lands squarely on his shoulders. And if he didn't want to be in this position where people are talking about potentially firing him, he should have done a better job in all aspects of his job: recruiting, development, play calling, stuff like that. And obviously, it has been good at different times, but the end product is mediocrity. Well, just like what I said with my tweet.
No, I know, and I kind of went over this when I was on Rain and Troy last night, and also later on in the show, I kind of pre-recorded our listener feedback segment, but I am going to play for you guys in the future our reaction and the reaction of the national and local media when Chip was hired. It's about 10 or 15, maybe 5 to 10. Just little drops of what people were saying when they made the hire, because obviously we were all excited because we thought that they had taken a big swing by hiring Chip Kelly. But the optimism of what was going to happen when they hired Chip was not matched with the production on the field. And there are still I'm with you, Mike. I was behind Chip right up until this last game against ASU, but that's when it's just like enough already, right? He has fluctuated since he got the program back to 500 after having two of his first 3 seasons were like the worst in program history, almost going back almost 100 years, and then he finally gets to 500 with the program after having a little bit of success. But he's been 500 since, and that's over a season and a half. And it's just every kind of step forward has been matched by another step backwards, and he didn't do himself any favors by kind of alienating the fan base and the media with some of his other actions. And like I said, I kind of like his style. I like how he does things, but he's not doing the things to give himself any more benefit of the doubt at this point. And I think that's where we're all landing on, is that it's just got to be done. Now, there is some more breaking news, because there's a little bit of a
breaking news on a weekly basis.
News just in.
A little bit of a counterpoint, and that is our good friends at Inside SoCal Sports. That's the parent organization of like the OC Register and the Daily News and all that. And they just they had an article in the OC Register about this particular quote from one Casey Wasserman, otherwise known as one of the big boosters in the UCLA program, UCLA family. And it says, Casey Wasserman, fire Chip Kelly talk is ridiculous. So, I mean, who the hell knows, right? I mean, at this point, it certainly feels like there's no way through this for Chip, even if he were to win the Crosstown Showdown and beat Cal. That would be must happens, right, Mike? Can you imagine a world in which he kind of survives all this and also loses to SC and also loses to Cal. Can you imagine? I can't see that, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
What's your reaction to this Inside SoCal Sports assertion that's what Washburn said?
It's I actually don't know because I literally just saw it. And you say the quote, and it's just kind of like an interesting counterpoint. But obviously, the Bruin Report, who I work for, has been very solid in their sources. So it's just really interesting to see how there's just two sides to this. But I don't know. It's with fan outcry and just not a lot of support. And just not a good record. I can see how UCLA would want to move on, especially going into the Big Ten next year. I honestly thought, why wait? Why did this happen last Saturday? But even in my opinion, if I was Martin Jarman, even if UCLA gets a win, you got to move on. It's just not working. There's been mediocrity, and it's literally the definition of mediocrity because he's 33-33.
Yeah,
he hasn't completely sucked, but he hasn't lit the world on fire. He's done just enough in the last 2-3 years to get him back to 500. And how many times has he hit the peaks and valleys of 500 just this season alone?
Yeah. I wrote an article about that, Mike, on our Substack a month ago, and it was, he finally gets a little bit of over 500, but then he always kind of floats back to it, and that's where we're at again. He got to 500, I want to say sometime in his fourth year. No, it wouldn't have been his fourth year, beginning of last year, and since then, he every step forward is matched with a step back, and it's like it seems inconceivable. You think about how excited we were about this program at different points of last season and this season, and even the season before, like the win against LSU is one that pops into mind. But every time you have one of these moments, there's been a run right into a brick wall sort of moment for all of us when they have some absolutely like inexplicable setback. And it's just been too many times. And you're right, Mike. It is the definition of mediocrity, right? And that's not. I don't see how we can go through it again. But
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, it's a depressing thought to think of because all I can think of is if they retain him, just a whole offseason of just going over this and over this and over this. And you think about how empty the Rose Bowl will be next year at the beginning of the year, because I don't see how you can generate any buzz or excitement. All that stuff just seems very, very difficult. So, I mean, I guess we'll have to see. I will tell you one thing, Mike. I was shocked that there was over 50,000, like 55, 56,000 folks at the Rose Bowl.
I was too, actually. I was like,
where did that come from?
A lot of people here.
Where did that come from, dude?
I have no idea. Hopeful fans thinking like, oh, well, we can get these last three. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be that many. Cal.
I was flabbergasted. I mean, I was happy. That's cool, but it's just it was really it's an aberration. That's the sad thing, is that is a complete aberration from what the year had been like so far. The biggest crowd they had up to that point was the opener against Coastal, I want to say. Yeah, I think so. No, I'm sorry, the Colorado game, of course. But excluding the Colorado game where we came out for primetime, I mean, nobody's putting that on the Bruins as being the draw there for homecoming. The previous high before that was that game against Coastal, and that was only 43-7. So how the hell did you get 58? Was it a big, Mike? I wasn't there. Of course, I was entertaining the Shirleys here at my home, thinking it was going to be a layup game because Megan was in town. Was it like a exceptionally pro ASU crowd, or was it a lot of Bruin fans?
No, I could not even remember. Obviously there were ASU fans in that area on the south end zone.
Yeah.
But it was salt and peppered in with the mix of the regular UCLA crowd. But yeah, no, there were a lot of UCLA people there, and
yeah, it was shocking. It really was shocking. But I mean, in a good way, But what? How did they reward the fans? Right, with the worst game of the Chip Kelly era, and that's a shame. So you really wonder.
Funny too.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say it was funny too because in the press box, with Tracy Pearson, Ben Bolch, Tracy McDonald,
Mike Regalado.
No, Tracy Pearson,
Yeah.
our homie, James Williams.
I love James.
We were like, what is happening? Like the fact that ASU doing their swinging gate nonsense was entertaining, and then the fact that UCLA, who couldn't goddamn move the ball, had some sort of weird, like dark comedy type of twist to it, and we were just like, what is happening? It was at some point we just started, you have to be professional in the press box, but we all could feel the vibe, and we were just like, we just would chuckle and laugh going, wow, of course this happened or that happened or this happened, because at that point you just got to shake your head and go, what else? Pac-12 after dark, if that's what it was. But just a wildly sadistically entertaining game that that UCLA deserved to lose, because there was just no effort in there from the offensive side, at least.
Yeah, that was really 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 bad is how we can characterize that. All right, well,
you know what it was, Jake?
Yeah.
It was balls.
You mean like this?
Balls.
I got a couple of them. We got this one.
I don't think anybody cares about UCLA football.
We got this one.
UCLA's always been pretty soft.
We got this one.
The worst in the world.
We got this one.
Oh my God, my guys suck balls. You know it.
If I suck balls, you are a team of suck balls mountain.
That was rough. That was really rough. And last but not least.
How bad is this? Be honest. Is this Windows Vista bad? It's not iPhone 4 bad, is it? Don't tell me this is Zune bad.
I'm sorry. It's Apple Maps bad.
Apple Maps bad. By the way, I've been using Apple Maps a lot more lately. It's not as bad as it used to be. Because my car won't let me use Google Maps for some reason. But we have other problems, other fish to fry, Mikey. So let's get on with the show real quick, and we'll get to the Crosstown Showdown. Let's do a What's Bruin Symposium. How about that?
Do you think we drink too much?
No, we don't drink too much. Men face reality, women don't. That's why men need to drink.
I hate it when podcasters talk about what they're drinking.
What else am I gonna drink, Bob? A fucking Fresca?
And thank you for joining the What's Bruin Symposium. Of course, the What's Bruin Symposium is a conversation over drinks. Mike, I just realized I never even played. Sometimes it's hard to be a Bruin when it comes to that ASU game, so remind me to do that in a minute. But it's What's Bruin Symposium. We are having a conversation over drinks here. And for my drink tonight, I poured out just old reliable for me, and that is probably my favorite mass-produced whiskey that's out there, bourbon, and that is Woodford Reserve. I poured a double of that, and I got in here with a couple ice cubes, and it's almost gone. It's almost melted by now. But always dependable, always wonderful. And when I make my cherry or my peach bourbon or whatever, I'm generally using Woodford for that, and it's never disappoints in my book. Yeah, that's what I got. Mikey, what did you crack open?
I got myself a Lagunitas IPA. I've wasn't a fan of them not too long ago, but no, they put out some pretty solid stuff. I like it, and especially since we're banning Stone because they've gone to the dark side.
That's right. F those guys.
Yeah. No, this is just I dig the Lagunitas.
Very good. And you can support the What's Bruin Show by subscribing on patreon.com/What's Bruin Show. For how much, Mike?
$2.
Just $2. Or you can be on the Substack, what'sbruin.substack.com, and support for just a little more than, how much, Mike?
$2.
Just a little more than that. And we appreciate your support on there. You get access to the Slack channel, which has been pretty lively lately. Slack channel is kind of hopping off with fans that are not super happy about the Bruin football team right now at this moment. But also, you guys are talking about basketball as well, and we're talking about all the other stuff. Nancy's on there talking about women's basketball. Like, we're all over the place on the Slack channel, so we appreciate that. And you'll also get some bonus shows that I may or may not record late in the week. Not this one, but some other show. There's not going to be one this
Yeah,
week,
and-
folks. Too many personal things going on, but I am trying to do that. And then Mike, I think, is going to start doing some basketball-y stuff once we get into basketball-y season, which, of course, we're not in basketball season yet, are we, Mike?
We are.
No, we're
fully
not.
In basketball
stop,
season.
stop lying.
We are. This is
Stop lying.
Jake. My body is telling me, "F you, Mike. Stop it." And
Mike,
that's when I know that we are in the 3-week crossover between basketball
hell
and
no.
football.
Mike,
Yeah.
we're not in basketball season until at least 5,000 people show up to Poly Pavilion. And I'm
Jake,
pretty sure that yesterday we did not get 5,000 people. So F
There
that.
was not.
F that for reals.
But I do want to try to bring that back, and I was thinking about doing it this weekend, but it's only the first week. Let's see what goes on, especially after next week with the Maui Invitational.
Yes.
Because Mick Cronin's still lively in his post games, but at the same time, UCLA women's basketball, number 3, baby,
They're doing
in
good.
the nation, killing it. Right now, Gabriela Jaquez, Lauren Betts, and who's the third one? London Jones are all averaging 18.7 points a game.
Very
there
cool.
are 6 Bruins that are averaging double digits through their first 3 wins, 3 or 4 wins.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, listen to the What's Bruin Show, subscribe on our feed, and we thank you for your support. Now, let's get on to the Crosstown Showdown.
Blue 32! Blue 32! California! California! Hood! Hood! Hey! Football! It's the game that will be! It's the game that will be, yo! It's the game that will be!
All right, so UCLA goes into the Crosstown Showdown this weekend on Saturday at the Mausoleum. Over there at SC, they are a 6.5-point dog to the Dumb Trojans. 12:30 p.m. It's actually going to be televised on ABC. Big game at 12:30 noon. Of course, everybody loves to see the wonderful colors on the field, the ketchup and mustard, the powder blue and gold. It is a beautiful sight. I think we can all acknowledge that. It is the most lovely game on TV to watch, just from an aesthetic point of view. This game could have been a big game. In fact, a month ago, we all would have said this is going to be a big game. Even a couple weeks ago, we would have said this is going to have a game that has something on the line. But no, turns out not. Turns out that the only meaningful thing about this is for the pride of the players playing the game and for our little, yearly talking crap against the other opposing fan base. And other than that, it is there's not a whole lot of stakes here as the Bruins take on the Trojans at the Mausoleum. Once again, the ESPN win predictor has the Bruins as a 24.8% win probability as a dog. They have a implied score of, the over-under on this game is a 65.5. That's an implied score of something like the Bruins losing 29-ish to 36-ish. Bill Connolly has a little bit closer. He has it as the Bruins as a 45% chance of victory. So much closer game in his book. He has UCLA as a 2.2 point dog, and his score prediction is 32-30 in favor of the Trojans. Mikey, I really, I spent a lot of my time going into the post-game stuff, so I didn't really put together a whole lot of trivia, so I'll just have one trivia question for this game right now. Let's play that trivia theme.
Now it's time for Jake's Trivia, brought to you by Jake, bringing you all the coolest trivia of UCLA football's opponent for this coming week. And now, Jake.
Mikey, what's the longest streak?
You sound so dejected.
I am. Mikey,
you're not alone.
Yeah, this is a layup. It's an easy one. What's the longest streak in the rivalry up to this point?
8. Bruins.
And that is won by
Trojans.
who? The Bruins, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the Trojans' longest streak in this rivalry?
5 games, and it was longer if they didn't damn cheat.
Exactly, Mike. That's Mike. Me and you are so simpatico. They've had 2 5-game streaks, not a 7-game streak. No, they never had one. Of course, the 13-9 game is very meaningful for us because we got off the schneid versus the Trojans. But the 2 games prior to that were vacated because they cheat. They're cheating cheaters that cheat, and those games no longer exist, and we do not have to acknowledge that they existed because they didn't happen. They didn't actually happen.
Exactly.
They are wiped from the memory. So you
give
don't
Reggie Bush back his Heisman.
you don't remember
No,
Reggie running
because he cheated.
No, that didn't happen. So F off.
It didn't happen. It was erased.
Y'all for real, F off. So anyways, yes, the longest winning streak in the series is 8, and that is by the Bruins. And that is when we were all in school there. And I will always maintain that Mike, what was your first year in Westwood as a student?
96.
That's right. You got there during the good years. I was there during the good years. Who got there right around the time when the streak ended?
Bill
freaking Shirley. The 25 years of Bruin frustration, we can all pin it on Bill Shirley. And I think we should all just, next time you are saying your prayers or putting a hex on someone or dropping a curse, make sure you put Bill in there in negative thoughts as far as causing the misery and pain we have for UCLA football. So just keep that in mind. So that is your trivia. Mikey, as far as the actual game.
But before we get into the game,
please.
I did want to ask you one thing really quickly, because this has been kind of bubbling over. That's actually the wrong word. That kind of implies excitement, because there is no excitement. It was actually pretty funny. Tim Cates on AM 570.
Yes.
After the Bruins basketball game,
he produces a lot of shows.
He talked about how he doesn't understand. I mean, I kind of get it. I kind of see where he's maybe not fully understanding it, or no, not even that too. I can see his point, but he was talking about why is this so? Why is this crosstown rivalry? Why does nobody care on both sides about this crosstown rivalry? And yeah, it's pretty obvious, but really quickly, what are your thoughts on why? Like, there's no fire under this rivalry.
Well, number one, when the game actually starts, I'll have plenty of fire, and I'll be definitely rooting for the Bruins. I think a lot of people are like that as well. But how could it not go this way when you think about, number one, the expectations that USC had for the Trojans this year? All USC fans thought they were punching their ticket to going to the playoff or coming up just short of it, and it turns out they're woefully short of it because their defense is one of the worst defenses they've ever fielded, and it's really kind of cut the legs out of any of their chance to be successful against the better teams in the conference. And then you flip that around to UCLA, and UCLA did not, none of us were delusional enough to think that they were going to have playoff hopes, but we thought that, I think a reasonable goal for this team this year was to make it to the Pac-12 title game and let the chips fall where they may, right? No pun intended with the chips. But they have also fallen woefully short of that once they lost that game to ASU, right? They lost the 3 tough games on the road. Those were kind of like just keeping kind of par or under, right at par. If they would have won one of those, they would have been under par, but they didn't, so they were at par, and then they lost ASU, and that was like a quadruple bogey, losing that game. So
yeah.
That, and by the way, since it's also recent too, SC's lost back-to-back games against Washington and Oregon, and then they lost the game before that as well, right? And then they got blown out by Notre Dame. So it's like, what do Trojan fans really have to be excited about other than they got the firing that they wanted? That's the only thing that's gone right for them this year, is they were able to fire the defensive coordinator they hated. And on the Bruins side of it, we were all really excited until all of the excitement was pulled directly out of our veins. Like, we're what do we have to be excited about as far as what this team is when you go out there and you put up 17 total points in 2 games against the Arizona schools? It's kind of hard to get excited about that, right? So I mean, that's it. And I think once the game starts, we're all going to be kind of geeked, if we're actually watching the game. But the stakes have been taken out of it, and that is deflating, considering what we thought there would be stakes. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, when you're on the verge of potentially firing a coach, that the fan base, the majority, and it's crazy too, because there was a divide coming into the season of those that wanted Chip Kelly out and those that have that are like, he's on the up and up. Let's give him another year. Well, here we are, 6-3, 6-4,
Mike.
6-4. That's not, they're already behind the 8 ball because they were 9-4 last year. So if they want to equal that mark, they have to win their last 3 games. And I am counting a bowl game because they are bowl eligible, even if they lose the last 2 games. And that's just the sad reality of what has gone on with Chip Kelly at UCLA. He just hasn't, especially
Chip
this
Kelly?
year, just has not injected any life. You know, we think about the life that was injected into the program the last 2 years. I got to say, that was DTR and Charbonnet doing it all on their own. And this year, there was some excitement with UCLA's defense and Latu and Muasau and the Murphy twins. They had a big hand in that. Other than that, there's nothing. There's no excitement. You know, even if UCLA beats USC, that's going to be awesome. Like you said, Bruin fans are going to bring the fire, just as USC fans are once the actual game begins. But there's just nothing else. It's kind of sad, you know. It's just a period of transition, and UCLA fans know that. And you know, I can imagine USC fans are going through that too, because Caleb Williams is gone after the season. Who knows what the hell Lincoln Riley is going to do? You know, obviously the talk radio speculation.
Yeah.
About maybe he'll go to the NFL after this season. And if that's the case, well, you know, Trojan fans are going to be like, what the F? And I can understand how some of them are just not happy with Lincoln Riley. And I've seen so many tweets and memes and all this stuff about how it's basically a carbon copy of what he did at Oklahoma. And, you know, you win games, you're successful, but when it comes to being successful at the things that will get you recognized, will make you legendary, they haven't done it either. But that's not our business. We focus on UCLA, which is crazy because that's even worse to a lesser extent, because Chip Kelly hasn't even gotten close to winning a Pac-12 championship.
Well, I mean,
has not won a bowl game.
To be fair, he's put himself in position to do it, but then he hasn't followed through and actually done it, right?
Yeah, and it's been few and far between the actual exciting, big wins against, ranked teams. You know, there was that game on the road where UCLA scored like 50 points in like 5 minutes to beat Washington State.
Yeah,
67-63, because Washington State was ranked at that time. That was UCLA's pretty much their own. I think it is their only win over a ranked opponent on the road. And then last year, you know, there was some momentum. You know, there was some ammunition with saying, yeah, UCLA beat ranked Utah and ranked Washington.
Those were good
Utah
wins.
Eventually won. Oh, those were really good games.
Mike, the point isn't that, like, I thought that the anarchist overstated it. You know,
I'm a bomb throwing anarchist now.
Has been overstating it this week, and there's been a little bit of, and God bless him, but he's been piling on a little bit, and rightfully so in some regards. But I really think that the key to why, you know, we're talking about, you know, USC and UCLA fans not being excited about this and how we all kind of lost our mojo.
I lost my mojo.
In the immortal words of Brian Fenley. But with Chip, it's like there have been some highs, and there has been things where he's given us so much hope. And the fact that we finished in the top 25 last year, you know, but they lost 3 of their last 4 games last year. And they started off the season so well 2 years ago with the wins against LSU, you know, with the win against LSU, but then he has the downer against Fresno State. And that's the season where they won all the games they were supposed to win, but they didn't win a game that, you know, against anybody that was actually a decent team, you know, that was kind of telling. But there have been moments in, you know, I kind of cataloged it on the postgame show when I had my call in, and I was just kind of like, well, in year 1 we had that game with Josh Kelly against the Trojans, and we're like, it's turned right now. There it is. And then in year 2, they had that stretch where they got themselves a couple, you know, they lost the non-con games, but then they won like 2 out of the 3 of the Pac-12 games. We're like, okay, they got it turned around. And then he finishes by losing like 3 in a row. And then they get into the COVID season and they get to 3-2. The first time he's been over 500 inside of a season, and then he loses to SC and Stanford. And then the LSU season, they beat LSU, lose to Fresno State, and then they end up, you know, only finishing like 8-4 that season, and they have that weird bowl thing where they have to forfeit the bowl. And then last year, they get all the way to 8-1, and we are like, that is, I mean, those are lofty expectations. You consider the place that they were, right? Those are lofty expectations. But then how does he finish? Oh, he finishes by losing 3 out of 4, and we have the most we thought the ASU game, I think, is certainly the most embarrassing loss of the season of his tenure. But before that, Pittsburgh was, and before that, the Arizona game was, right? Yeah. So I mean, just in the last calendar year, 3 of the worst losses of the Chip Kelly era have been, put on record. And I know we're trying to get this into the Crosstown Showdown, Mike, and we kind of morph back into Kelly talk, so we need to kind of,
it's all right.
Stay on target a little bit, but. You're right, Mike. There's a reason we've lost our mojo.
I lost my mojo.
Yeah.
And
what's funny? It's like you were just talking about how Kelly has all these highs, and you went through this perfect analysis of cause and effect every season, and it seemed like, I don't know if you were trying to defend that stance, but you kind of circled back around to, yeah, they suck. This has not been a good tenure.
Well, that's my point, Mike. Though, but it's like,
I get it,
Mikey. It's kind of like this too. Like when I was on Raina Troy last night with Penguin and Michael, they were comparing the Bruin offense this particular season. This can kind of get us back into the game against SC. They were comparing the Bruin offense this season to something like Iowa, right? Which, because they're scoring about the same amount of points. But I said that doesn't reflect it at all, because UCLA has an offense that has shown that it could be explosive this season. And I look back to the non-con and Dante Moore really spinning it and throwing it down the field, and it just turned out that in the conference season, playing the likes of Utah and Oregon State and apparently Arizona and Arizona State too, like they didn't have any answers. But there is a version of this season in which they do kind of get it figured out, and they are able to put up points, and they are explosive because they have explosive players in Sturdivant, in Ford. I'm sorry, I have a dog barking running in and out. They have guys that can be explosive. They have a quarterback that theoretically can deliver the ball down the field, but they just haven't done it in the last month, right? But it's not like Iowa, which there's zero chance that Iowa is scoring more than 17 points in any particular game. And by the way, they don't want to. The problem with this season for the Bruins is that Chip Kelly's trying to kind of force a square peg in a round hole by trying to air it out, in the beginning of these games, and it hasn't worked out. And he's getting his quarterbacks killed, one after the other. But if things go right, we've seen them put up points. And even like you think about the Washington, I'm trying to think of a couple of these games when they actually have scored, they marched right down the field and like scored in the 3-play drives and things, right? When it's clicking, it hasn't clicked at all. Does that make sense, Mike? So it's like, they're the offense. There's a good offense in there somewhere. It's just gotten worse and worse as the season's gone on, and they haven't been able to find it. But that's why, when I think about this game against the Trojans, this defense is so bad that there is a chance that it's at a level that will allow the Bruins to kind of take advantage of it and kind of do whatever they want if they can, if they actually have a quarterback that can stand up. But there is a version of the Crosstown Showdown where that happens. Do I think that's likely to happen? I don't know, because I have no idea where the emotions of the team are. Obviously the fan base is very, very down, but for all we know, these guys could be circling the wagons in the locker room and come out and have their best game of the season. That's certainly possible.
True.
I don't know if it's likely, but it's possible.
And you know what? I do want to, like, this is a weird situation. And even in the time of NIL, when players are getting paid, it's still not the same as like a pro team. And, I have no problem, if you cross the line and you get violent and abusive, there's no place for that when attacking teams and players and stuff like that. But it's like, but something like, oh my God, that quarterback for that NFL team was trash and they lost, blah, blah, blah. There is a difference with the student athletes. Yeah, the coaches are getting paid a ton of money to put stuff together. And not every student athlete is getting paid. Obviously, the glamour spots, those are the players that are getting paid. Offensive linemen, I can't imagine they're doing insanely well with NIL in this day and age, and yet they are one of the biggest parts of the offense and stuff like.
You're damn
and the
right
fact
they
that
are.
they still go to class and try to be a full-time student. you gotta. I am gonna say this. People, you got to be very. Just be cool with the student athletes. It's one thing to say that they didn't play good, and we can get on, Shador Sanders or Caleb Williams from like a rivalry type of stance. But in the end, do we really want them injured or losing or they're humans like everyone else, but yet they're younger than us. They haven't even begun their adulthood. I just want to give a shout out to all the student athletes who are there and I've been able to cover, because they're the ones that are getting their butts kicked every single week. So just a big shout out to them, and especially in this situation, that must be a crazy. Like, what is the mindset of a student athlete at UCLA right now, with the potential of your head coach possibly losing his job? Not a successful season, a disunity, quote unquote, amongst it. It's pretty rough, and I can't really imagine. I know what I was like at 18, 19, 20, 21, and I was an idiot. These guys are taking on a ton of responsibility. So I just wanted to, give a shout out to them.
No, I get your point too, Mike. And it is difficult when you have a coaching staff that is that has uncertainty, and not just for the players, but for the coaches too. I mean, Chip Kelly's got a lot of guys that work under him, and they got to be, wondering what's going on too, listening to the reports that are out there. Yeah. And as far as the players go, like, I don't know, I'm not, look, I choose not to engage in the, and God bless the bro boards for being there.
Hi, bro.
But I am not the person who goes onto the message boards and peruses the whatever sorts of emotions and stuff that are on there at any given moment. So I don't see a lot of the assertions against the players or whatever. Obviously, in the moment on Twitter, which is always negative, you might see that stuff. But I'm with you. Right? I'm with you. And by the way, I'm not a guy who's super negative towards the coaches either, because most of the time coaches are making decisions that are like, maybe it's a 60-40 decision, maybe it's a 55-45 decision, but generally it's not a, oh my God, 100% you are an absolute idiot sort of decision that it is made out to be, like in hindsight, from a backseat driver perspective. So I definitely have a lot of empathy and sympathy for the dudes that are playing these games that we're all so very interested in for whatever reason. I have no idea. Why am I drawn to it? It's probably not for any good reasons, but here we are. With that being said, too, you kind of wrap me around to another point about just this program in general, and that is one of the knocks on Kelly is that he hasn't recruited enough and that he's not bringing in good enough players. But the implication there is just the implication in that statement alone is talking about how these players are inadequate in some way. And I would push back on that within this particular season and within the last couple of seasons. There has been plenty of talent on these UCLA teams to win at a level that would make the fans happy and proud and satisfied with what Chip Kelly is putting out there. But the problem is they haven't won those games, right? But they didn't win the games. They didn't lose the game to Utah, in my opinion, because of a lack of talent. They lost it because they were not put in a position to succeed, and that falls on the coach in that particular game. I don't think they lost the game to ASU because of talent. They lost the game to ASU because they're not put in a position to win that game because of their coach. And there's nothing you can convince me of to believe otherwise. Like, they had the talent to win at a sufficient rate to make us Bruin fans proud of the program and happy with the results if they just win some of these inexplicable games. They definitely have the talent to win the game against Pittsburgh. They definitely have the talent to win last year against Arizona. So if you're telling me you're going to add 2 wins onto last year and this year, not even getting into the game against, the Oregon State game or whatever. If you add 2 wins onto last year's total and this year's total, are we even in the realm of thinking about saying Chip Kelly has to go? Absolutely not. So I want people to kind of, think about that for a minute, right? If we're just talking about, on one hand, yes, we want to be empathetic to the players, and we're definitely rooting for the players at all times, for sure. unless maybe they're thieving things from Chinese international markets or anything. But shout out to the Balls. But if we're going to say that he's, that he's not recruiting right, well, that's also a shot at the players that are there as well, too. So I kind of keep that in the back of your mind as well. I don't know. Mike, we are absolutely sprawling, and I think we are having a little bit of a get to the chopper moment.
Get to the chopper!
Amongst ourselves. Let's actually talk about this particular game, okay?
All right. Fine.
Stupid crybaby Caleb Williams, speaking of being mean to the players, but we can, he's made himself a target. He's on a Wendy's commercial. He's making more money than all of us, or maybe we're going to make in our lifetimes. God bless him. He's a very talented individual. He's probably at least Tola's favorite player of all time. Which one? Sorry, I saw one where he's like throwing shade at UCLA, but I only saw it, I didn't hear it.
Not shade. He's in a commercial. I forgot what it was for. Avis. I don't even know. But Joe Bruin was in it with him.
Oh yeah.
And they were talking about NIL and deals, and it's like, dude, if you just advertise for them, you'll get paid. And he was supposed to advertise for Joe Bruin, a Joe Bruin drink, blah blah blah.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
He starts to get into the spiel, and he goes, "I just can't do it." and they're like, "Yeah, I get that." So not necessarily a shot. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah,
but,
well, it's funny. I saw that on my TV, but the mute was on because a lot of times I watch these games that are on mute anyway. But I saw it. I'm like, oh man, what's he saying there? And I forgot to go back and look at it. But that's good. I'm glad you described it for me. I will say this:
funny.
Caleb Williams. Outside the bounds of he is a very hateable Trojan wearing a very hateable uniform and playing in a very hateable mausoleum and playing for a very hateable university, right? Other than that, he seems like a genuinely wonderful guy and a fierce competitor. And, I wish him well in all other regards. I want Latu to sack him like 7 times. I want the Murphys to both get him twice. But he does seem like a pretty swell dude. I will say that. Very likable. But we hate him right now, and we hate him for the Crosstown Showdown. And we want him to fail miserably, and we want the Bruins to succeed. Mikey, do you have any thoughts at all about how you feel the game will play out? Bruin offense versus Trojan defense, Trojan offense versus Bruin defense. Where do you land on this particular game?
Yeah, clearly this is going to be played with 4 different teams on the field at all times. The big thing is USC's explosive offense, like Caleb Williams. As much as, UCLA fans will get on him, that dude is a freaking athlete. Just how many times he should have been sacked or taken, have a big hit, taking a big hit. Sorry about that. It's insane. He just uses his feet and his athleticism to just get out of those situations. And unfortunately, he still fights when he goes against really good defenses, and their 3 losses have come against. No, they have 4 losses. 3 out of the 4 teams that they lost to are in the top 20 of total defense. Notre Dame, Oregon, and Utah. UCLA is 11th, I believe, in the nation. So that says something. Even though UCLA's defense has kind of taken some hits, although not entirely their fault, I think they're going to use this as a platform to show how good they are. Latu's on a national stage. He wants to show how good he is. He is making money every single game as the NFL draft starts to approach. Mosau, same thing. These are guys who have been embattled, and they want to show what they're made of. And yeah, like you're saying, I could totally imagine that Latu is picturing 7 sacks on Caleb Williams, the Murphys, who got to come in cool.
No personal
more
fouls.
Penalties. No personal fouls. Just go in and get the job done. If UCLA's defense can do that, well, the fewer points that you score will not get you a chance to win. There you go,
Mike.
See what I did there?
That's
See what I did there?
Absolute genius.
But honestly, the big question is, yes, USC's defense absolutely horrible, like very bottom of the NCAA, and that would normally give me any a Pac-12 offense, I would say, oh, that would be you can score on them. What UCLA has shown in the last 2 weeks under Chip Kelly, who's supposed to be this genius, how we have Carson Steele and TJ Hardings and Michael Sturdivants, and they can't score more than one touchdown. That's the part where it's like I don't see. UCLA hasn't given me a lot to go on to say that, oh yes, they can score and take over this game, because they haven't. Hopefully there's some rejuvenation. It seems like Ethan Garbers might get the go, and he has been UCLA's most consistent
Is that really real?
My name is
Ethan.
It's
really?
I forgot about that. That's signs are pointing to yes. I will say that.
Okay. What about more?
Well, clearly he's not out of it, but at the same time, again, there's speculation about concussion. I don't know if that's the reason he might not, but as I said, Garbers has been the most consistent, so I can see why the coaches would probably want to go with that. But UCLA just has to figure out how to move the ball down the field.
I'll tell you how they can move the goddamn ball, Mike. You run the goddamn ball against this team, for goodness sakes.
Yeah. And and that was a frustrating thing against ASU, because they did. Colin Schlee was in there for almost the entire game, and they still couldn't get 1 yard.
No, Mike,
on a simple run.
It's not that they couldn't. It's not that they couldn't. They didn't try to. The only time they actually, I mean, those 4th and 1 plays were just ridiculous. The first one, shame on me for whatever they don't succeed. But the second two, just do something slightly different and you get the freaking yard. But you just announcing that you're going to get 4th and 1, you're going to run the ball straight up the gut like they have done multiple times. That's one of the hallmarks of Chip Kelly failure. If you go back and look at him in short yardage, there have been more F-ups than any team I can remember over a 4 or 5 year period. It's just he is a creative genius on offense, but he just absolutely gets completely reductive when it gets down to these short situations. And more often than not, it's just, okay, I'm going to hand it off and do a dive up the middle and get stuffed. And it's so frustrating. So frustrating.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing. I think UCLA's defense will absolutely put on a show, and they will stuff USC.
You're going to stuff them?
Yeah, but they're still going to score enough to where we're just going to see how there's just no inability to move the ball or to put the ball in the end zone by UCLA, at least from what we've seen in the last 2 weeks. You just talked about at length about how UCLA does have talent, and I just said the Steeles and the Sturdivants and the Hardens. How come it hasn't come together? And at this point, I don't even know or care about the reason. I just know that that's not what we've seen, and that's not what is happening right now. And I think that's going to continue in this game, giving USC the win.
Well,
spoiler alert.
Yeah. Well, Mikey, SC has averaged 43.8 points this season. When you say UCLA's defense will end up stuffing them, what point total are you expecting for USC? What would stuffing them equal out to?
24 points.
I think that would be a huge victory for the UCLA defense if they hold this team to 24 points. I think that would be, and I think that is kind of what they need to do in order to win the game. I think it has to be something in that range. Now, I will say this, Mikey. You look
but really quickly, that's my point. I don't think UCLA can score 25 to just beat them.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see. I think you are. Oh, well, here's the thing. If they play like they did the last 2 weeks, then I think you're absolutely right, Mike. It's going to be a hard task for them to even get to 20 points. But I really do think that there is a decent to mediocre at worst offense lurking somewhere in this team, and I think that the USC defense is the unit to bring that out of the Bruins. USC really has a poor defense. I don't think that's breaking news, right?
No.
They have the worst rushing defense in the Pac-12. They started the season, they were like in the top 10 nationally in sacks, better than UCLA after like 4 or 5 games. In the last 4 or 5 games, they have 1 sack total in like 4 games. Okay.
Wow.
When I look at the way that I want this game to play out, I point to USC's schedule, and that would be a 48-20 loss to the Fighting Irish, and then a 34-32 loss to the Utah Utes. Now, would you say it would be fair, Mike, to compare the Utah Utes, both defensively and at times this season offensively, to what the Bruins are deploying out there? Because I think that's probably a fairly fair comp. I don't think the Bruins have a whole lot of potential to just like blow SC out of the water. And on the flip side, I think that absolutely SC has the potential to blow UCLA out of the water, because there's just a point at which maybe the defense isn't playing as well as we want them to, and the Trojans get a little head of steam under them, and the Bruin offense is not able to keep up, and all of a sudden it gets out of hand. That certainly, I think, is at least as likely of an outcome as any, although it's not what I'm going to predict. Spoiler alert. But I also think there is a very reasonable chance that the Bruin offense, if they, like, I don't know why he would do this, but given the fact that Kelly did not have Garbers and Moore available, and he had to roll with Schlee, I'll never understand why he just didn't call a game that would fit in with Schlee's capabilities as opposed to the other 2 guys. And I think that really is one of the fatal flaws of the Kelly era, especially this last season, is just how stubborn he's been with how he's calling these games. But if he has Garbers or Moore out there, I think that how he calls his game can work out against this defense. I think they will be able to score against this defense. And when you look at how Notre Dame beat the Trojans, well, they beat them in a way, kind of in a fluky way. They forced 5 turnovers against the Trojans, and they ended up, the offensive stats for, USC, they only had 302 total yards in that game. They only averaged 5.5 yards a pass. It was a miserable game for Caleb Williams, worst game of the season, maybe the worst game of his career, I want to say. And they barely managed 100 yards rushing in that game as well. And Notre Dame capitalized on the 5 turnovers and had very pedestrian offensive stats and ended up blowing them out because of the turnovers. Do I expect UCLA to force that many turnovers against SC? Absolutely not. But when I look at the Utah game against SC, that's where I think I see the template. Utah held the ball for 35 minutes in that game. Utah ran the ball for 250 yards almost in that game. They averaged 5.5 yards a rush, 5.3. That's something that is entirely doable by this UCLA offense if they choose to do so, right? It's kind of like, this is your mission if you choose to accept it. And I really feel like the way to take advantage of this USC team is to just run it right down their throats, try to keep the ball away from Williams, try not to give them too many opportunities to really get off. And I think that the UCLA defense really, if you don't put them out there over and over and over and over again, like they have been the last, 8, 9, 10 quarters of football, 8 quarters for sure, I think they have a very good chance of slowing this Trojan team down as much as anybody else. But that's going to take a good effort by the offense, and that's where I think that it comes from, Mike. They have to be able to run the ball, and then if you're able to run the ball, you will be able to throw the ball too, assuming it's not Schlee out there. And that will be where their opportunities are, and they will be able to score some points, and I think that this will be a competitive game and a game that could tilt in the way of the Bruins. A couple weeks ago, if you would have asked me, I would have been very confident about this game as a game that the Bruins can absolutely win, and they would be favored to win. And then the last 2 games showed up, and we're like, are these guys ever going to be able to score another touchdown again? But that team is still in there, and I'm hoping it shows up to the Coliseum this week, and I'm hoping that they have a good effort. Now, this could all go out the window. They could all be very depressed about the swirling winds of the Chip Kelly era, or I think I said it earlier, it could be a circle the wagons moment, and they come out and play the game of their lives. Let's hope for the latter, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be amazing. And, you do have to throw in the factor of the rivalry games, because 13-9, for example.
All these dudes want to win.
It doesn't really matter what the other team is or where you're at. Sometimes the emotion, the chances, the talent bounces your way, or it just comes out, and so.
Well, and look, and it's not even these teams, in my opinion, are on equal footing in this game. I know the Trojans are a 6.5-point favorite, but UCLA's offense is every bit as bad in the last couple of weeks as USC's defense. And UCLA's defense has been every bit as good as USC's offense throughout this whole season. So it's like, this is, last year it was UCLA's strength, offense, versus USC's weakness, defense, and vice versa, right? USC's strength, offense, versus UCLA's weakness, defense. That was the 2022 version. The 2023 version is UCLA's strength versus USC's strength, and UCLA's weakness versus USC's weakness. And I think it really is an interesting game from that standpoint, and I am real curious how it's going to work out. And I'm hoping that the Bruins play a good game and bring this one home. But with that being said, Mike, we've talked about it long enough. Why don't you get to your very, very sad, pessimistic, oh my God, I can't believe Mike is picking the Bruins to lose prediction. Go ahead, buddy.
I thought about it just in these last few minutes.
I love it.
Okay, I mean, no, because you bring up, you're right. And this is evident in every game, except 15-0. That was just a beatdown.
Yeah.
But yeah, just there's so much weirdness for both teams. Yeah, UCLA 26, USC 24.
Go Bruins.
Go Bruins!
Fight!
I love it, Mike.
I like UCLA to win the game.
I'm happy that UCLA won.
I'm happy that UCLA won.
I love it, Mikey. I am right there with you, and I think that the way to go is by letting Latu get loose, letting the Murphys get loose, them limiting this Trojan defense and this Trojan offense in every way that they can, and then the path lies here. I'm going to play you 3 drops, and all 3 of these drops should be relevant in this game, and if they're not, I'm going to be pissed. Mikey, I play the drop, you say the person. Who's that?
Steele.
15 to 20 carries, please. And then how about this guy?
DJ Hardy.
Thank you. Give me another 15 carries for that guy, too. And then last, I want 10 carries from this guy, or at least 10 touches. Not carries, touches. Who's that?
Mr. Jones.
Mr. Jones! Let's go! And whether we get this guy or we get this guy, Ethan,
Just call me Eve.
they should be able to pilot the Bruins to success at the Mausoleum. The Bruins are going to win this game. Book it. I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I'm saying they win. I had a weird score prediction on Rain and Troy last night. I'm going to try to remember what it was. I think it was something like 29-26, and I'll stick with that. So let's effing go. Let's hope it doesn't come down to a field goal because then I'm really worried. But other than that,
Right.
I want to see the Bruins win this game.
I've been staying away from multiples of 3s after 7s.
Oh, my gosh, man. Okay. So, Mikey, let's get to the choppa. Oh, were you going to say something else?
Really quickly, Jamaal sent us in. Bill,
Oh, yeah.
MIA again. But Jamaal, and
I haven't heard
you
from Bill
can't
since
argue
Saturday.
with this. He has the Trojans winning 30-14.
You know what I have to say about that, Jamaal?
Sounds rumpy-pumpy.
Although he did predict it before the season started. I am most sad about that. I predicted a double Crosstown Showdown. I wanted UCLA and USC in the Pac-12 championship game. Well, that's not going to happen.
Nope.
But hopefully we can have a successful Crosstown Showdown this weekend at the Rose Bowl. So let's get to the chopper, Mike, and get on to listener feedback. How about that?
Cool.
Get to the chopper!
All right, so we do have some listener feedback for you tonight, and before I get to that, just want to remind you that you can subscribe to the show on patreon.com/whatsbruinshow, or you can also subscribe on the Substack. That is whatsbruin.substack.com, and if you subscribe onto that, you'll get notifications when we publish, and also if we have any photos that we publish, that will be on the Substack pretty much. That's Mike taking photos before the game. We got some great photos from the field the last few games, and he's making a habit of that, as well as also you'll get photos of whatever we are doing before or after the game, interesting things that we see. And like when we went on the road trip to Arizona or to San Diego, I want to say there was a lot of pictures from that as well. So subscribe on the Substack. We just got some new subscribers this week. And that's just for all the free posts. You can also subscribe and support the show there as well. And we appreciate those who subscribe on Patreon and on the Substack. Thank you very much. First thing we're going to get to is The Godfather, who we haven't heard from him in a while. But if you remember way, way, way back when Chip Kelly was first hired, and it was so exciting, he was so excited that he composed a song celebrating the hiring of Chip Kelly. Here it is.
Chip, chippity, chip, chippity, chip, chip Kelly. UCLA fans are feeling such glee. Chip, chippity, chip, chippity, chip, chip Kelly. The Bruins will be rolling, you just wait and see. Chip's coming to Westwood, so watch out, SC.
I actually have a whole bunch of sound that will remind us of how happy we were when they hired Chip way back then, before at the end of the 2017 season. Here's a smattering of it.
Chip Kelly chose UCLA over Florida.
Chip Kelly's coming for you. Florida got screwed by Jim Moore getting fired.
Looks like it's a slam dunk. It looks like there's no way Chip Kelly can fail.
Whatever it was that was being said about UCLA up to this point, since the retirement of Coach Donahue till now, is now gone.
UCLA's been down. That's not going to last much longer.
I don't care what happens from here. UCLA won the coaching carousel.
With UCLA getting Chip Kelly, the bar has been raised.
This is a really, really big deal for the Pac-12.
This is by far the biggest seismic moment in the history of UCLA football.
So when you hear people questioning the rationality of UCLA fans, and why are they putting pressure on Kelly, and it came so quick, and I can't believe it turned, they were doing so well just a month ago, and what should UCLA fans expect? Well, I mean, that tells you what we were expecting, and not all those were local broadcasters making those comments. Those were national media people, getting very excited, just like all the Bruin fans were. And then Kelly comes in, 2018, he's 3-9. 2019, he's 4-8. 2020, he's 3-4. Takes him 4 years to get a winning season under his belt. And even after the 6 years, he's still at 500, right? He is literally, if you go by UCLA coaching standards, he's literally not in the top 10 of coaches that coached a season or more. He is number 11 on a list of 14 coaches that coached at least a season at UCLA. Chip Kelly is 11 out of 14. Okay, so anybody wondering why the UCLA fan base is apathetic or upset or wanting change, even the stalwarts like myself who are behind this era right up until Sparky got us last week, that is the reason why people have been out on Kelly. This is a place that has had a successful football program. Doesn't feel like that for the last 2 decades, but most coaches can come here and at least be over 500, even in the 2000s. The fact that Carl Durrell is in the top 10 of UCLA coaches of all time is a scathing indictment of our football program, but it also is a even more scathing indictment of Chip Kelly. Let's just be real here. 33-33 after 66 games ain't gonna do it. And I will just say, if I were a numerologist, I'd be awfully suspicious of Chip Kelly right now. 6 years, 66 games. 33-33, put those together, that's a lot of sixes. I'm just saying. We thought Herm was afraid of devils. Well, get behind me, Chip Kelly. But anywho, getting on with the listener feedback, let's get to the new version of Godfather's Chip Chimney song. He recorded this at our special request, so here it is.
Chip, chippity, chip, chippity, chip, chip Kelly. You've been here 6 years, now go take a knee. When you arrived here, we all felt such glee, but now here you are, 33-33. You don't recruit, you are lazy. For us to support you, we were surely crazy. You once were a good coach, but that's long ago. We've had enough of you, and now it's time to go.
Well, there you go. The sports godfather, Jim Bendat, spitting hot fire about Chip Kelly and how far his opinion has come from the hiring 6 years ago. Thank you, Jim. And we're going to hopefully have Jim on in the offseason, once you get through football season, to talk about our appreciation for the soon-to-be defunct Pac-12 and the schools that we're leaving and some of the schools we're taking with us and how that's going to work out. So I can't wait to catch up with the Godfather and talk to him about the cool football trips he went on this year, which he has gone on many, as he continues to enjoy his retirement from the Public Defender's Office of Los Angeles County. Let's go, Godfather. Thank you very much. Now, getting on with the rest of your feedback, and we appreciate it when you guys call in and write in. You guys gave me so many good calls for me to produce the call-in shows that I did coming out of the ASU loss. And those, of course, were very fun for me to produce. I was getting texts and phone calls from my friends that were telling me that I screwed up the audio at the beginning. But like I said, avant-garde. You know, if you listen long enough, you'll figure it out. But I was so bummed about that game that, you know, I needed to do something to cheer me up. And part of that was producing a fun call-in show. And I couldn't have done it without all of your calls. So I really, really want to thank you all for venting your frustrations over the Chip Kelly era of UCLA football and that terrible loss to ASU. Hotline number, of course, is 805-399-4WBS. Second Rain of Troy. I was just on Rain of Troy last night. So go on to YouTube and find that, or it's also on your Apple iTunes feed. But today, we don't have any calls, but we do have some emails that you guys sent in. whatsbruinshow@gmail.com or Twitter, or if you're on the Slack channel, you might have something to say on there too. So let's get to a little bit of that. First is from Brent Benton, who's contributed quite a bit this year with ideas for drops. I want to thank you very much, Mr. Benton.
Hello, Mr. Benton.
And he just emailed in with a simple hashtag free Bruins football. Let's see if we can get that one going. We might be free soon. Who knows? According to reports, at least, right? The Shame Dog wrote in. He said, who do we want the coach of UCLA football team? I don't know if I can take another milquetoast hire. And why isn't anyone talking to David Shaw? The dude created a monster with tighter recruiting options, and he didn't give a crap about the portal. The other portion of this question is why is it so hard for UCLA to recruit to the most marketable market? What don't we have, damn it? Seamus, the only thing I would say is that it didn't seem like a milquetoast hire when it happened, right? We thought we hit a home run with Chip Kelly and really should have. And I don't think there was too much we could have done to predict otherwise. You heard the clips I just played. So hopefully they do a hiring search in the same way that they did the last one, if they're going to actually fire Chip. I don't want to end up with some sort of retread that was losing steam the last time they coached. And that's one of the reasons why I don't think I would want David Shaw at this point. I mean, I don't think I'd turn David Shaw down, maybe. I don't know. But that name doesn't excite me a whole lot. I know that he did what he did at Stanford, but to me, that was built by Harbaugh more, and Shaw just kind of kept it going for as long as he could. But I'm sure Shaw was a very good head coach, but he's also a guy, I don't even remember, he had a love affair with Chip Kelly, basically. Every time we'd go to media day, and they would talk about each other during their press appearances. So be careful what you wish for, Seamus. You might be getting more of the same to some degree or another. Just keep that in mind. We'll talk about the coaching search, if there is indeed a coaching search, at another point. But I do have ideas about what I'm hoping the Bruins are looking for. Seamus also had a fun comment on the Slack, and I can't pass up a Seinfeld reference. So he says, so there's the opinion that USC sucks, so if UCLA wins Saturday, it's not going to save Chip's job, which led me to thinking, me being Seamus, that I wonder if Chip will bow out and leave under a joint decision, or if he's going to make Jarmon fire him. And then dawned on me, being Seamus, Chip is part George Costanza. He wouldn't leave even though everybody hated him at Play Now. God, that was a great episode. That was the one, I believe, where he pretended he was handicapped and then got busted. He pretended he was handicapped to get a bathroom to himself, and then he got busted, and everybody hated him. And but he would not quit. Brilliant. All right, last but not least, Leo, the library guy, sent in a Olympic sports update, and I didn't get this last week, so this is a little bit stale. I'll try to add in some of the other records that have happened since then and add to the story. But number one, women's volleyball won 3 of their last 4 as of last week. Well, now it's 5 of their last 6. because they beat the Mountain Schools on the road, and they split ASU and U of A. They beat U of A and lost to the Sparky, just like the Bruin football team. Last weekend, and then they just recently beat the Washington Schools, swept them. So hopefully they continue to trend upwards. Women's soccer won the Pac-12 with a 1-1 draw against Stanford, and then dominated the Trojans 4-2 to close out the season. They had the number 1 seed in their quadrant, the NCAA tournament bracket, and that was last Friday against the old UC Irvine. Go Anteaters, and unfortunately, they got beat by the Anteaters. Yeah, the number 1 seed Bruins lost 1-0 at the hands of the Anteaters, and they end their season 16-2-1. Bruins had a bunch of shots, couldn't come through, and now their season is over in the first round. So UC Irvine doing a lot of damage to the LA schools in the last week or so. Remember, their basketball team just took down the stupid Trojans a couple days ago. Men's soccer clinched the Pac-12 championship after beating Stanford on the farm 3-1, and then beating San Diego State 3-0 last week. We're looking ahead for them, and I think they have some sort of matchup in a pod or something in the tournament. And however soccer does their stuff with the dreaded UC Irvine Anteaters and LMU, I think that should be coming up soon. But good job for the men's soccer team, at least so far. They're about to head into the postseason. And then it looks like men's water polo finished strong with a big victory over the Trojans in the Crosstown Splashdown. That's what they call that. I like that. The Bruins number 1 in water polo, and they remained undefeated, closed the season with that victory over USC. And Leo says that after this is a tournament at Cal, the MPSF, he thinks that even if they don't end up winning the conference tournament, they'll still be in the NCAA tournament as an at-large bid and still probably have the number 1 seed. So let's go water polo. Let's hope all the Olympic sports that are still alive for the fall finish off strong. And thank you once again, Leo, for your wonderful information. Go Bruins. All right, so let's get on to Bill's favorite part of the show, even though he's not here. What's brewing with you?
What's brewing with you? You ask me. What's brewing with me? Yeah. What's brewing with you? What's brewing with me? What's brewing with you?
Mikey, what is brewing with you, my friend?
Well, I'm exhausted because this freaking basketball football crossover is, just pretty freaking insane.
Basketball season has not started, Mike.
Sure, Jake. Sure. Yeah, whatever, Jake. But no, like, my commute this week has been absolutely atrocious because some dickhead decided to start a fire amongst pallets under the 10 freeway, literally where I get on every freaking morning to go to work on the west side. Anyway, that's my problem, not yours, but it has been quite an adventure trying to get around this.
Government totally sucks, Mike.
Chaos. Totally. Well, the government kind of like stepped up this week because they said it was going to be 5 weeks and they're going to open it on Tuesday.
That part's good.
Fine.
The fact that the conditions were set in place for it to even happen, that's fucked up, Mike.
Yeah, I guess so. But so I'm I'm up, half an hour earlier, and I hear a crash, and it's not that abnormal to hear a crash because I'm very close to Olympic Boulevard. But I hear a crash, and it's followed up by just this screeching, and I go out the front door. And I see my neighbors are out there, and there's just smoke everywhere, and there's just this metal scratching across, the street. There was this dude that was apparently driving way too fast and trying to make a left turn up my street, crashed into a truck, which shoved it into the fence of the parking lot of this restaurant that's right there, and then decided to take off, despite the fact that he had no back end, and one of his tires was not fully connected to his car.
Crazy.
So, there was a little bit of some interaction with the local fuzz who were doing their jobs because that's people. If you make a mistake, freaking own up to it. If you run or just try to lie or do just to do what this idiot did, it's gonna get worse for you.
That's right.
But yeah, no, that was just like a weird, like, whoa, that's crazy. That was a weird awakening this morning. But anyway, Jake, what's wrong with you?
Mikey, I'd just like to reiterate that hit and runs are crimes of idiocy And if you are, and if someone commits a hit and run, just try to get their license. Try to get just any detail about what the car is, what the plate is, even get a partial plate, description of the driver, any of that stuff, so you can be a good witness for such a thing. Mike, this is like you had another person in our sphere that we know that was actually got ran over by a hit and run driver. Isn't that correct? And it's just a villainous, terrible, horrible thing that is inexcusable, considering your concern for others. And something that shouldn't be criminal is turned criminal right away when you flee from the scene of an accident, whether there's injuries or not. So don't do it, you douchebags. And it's very frustrating. Actually, speaking of which, Mike, I'll just pony it because I don't really have a what's brewing other than I want to hope that my mother-in-law Bunny recovers well. She was laid low this week with a medical problem, so hopefully she's starting to feel better, and our fingers are crossed for her. So go Bunny. But other than that, Mike, I'll just tag on to your hit and run story with a hit and run story of my own that I got to deal with just as a civilian. We got rear-ended on the 405 freeway heading south out of the valley, going up the hill. This is a few years ago, but it was a couple. It was a couple of senior citizens, and they rear-ended us, and then pulled around us, and then just kept on driving, and I had to follow them up over the hill, past Skirball, down into the past Santa Monica, and we finally they tried to pull off the freeway and flee somewhere under the west side, and they finally pulled in the gas station, and I had ended up calling CHP to come meet me there, and they freaking were just pled ignorance to the whole thing after they rear-ended me. I'm like, oh, well, we didn't know. And we're like, oh, you didn't know that you crashed into my car? Is that what you didn't know? Nothing happened to them, because once we finally caught up with them, we're like, okay, fine, let's just deal with this like adults, please. But it was two 65-year-old senior citizens that, I mean, come on, if you're not going to be responsible at that age, when are you ever going to be responsible? And it's just there's no this is a cross section of society at this point in time, of people that are being very irresponsible with their vehicles. Whether it's Mike, you're about to get me off on a big jag here, but I've never seen so many people blatantly running red lights. And I think part of the problem is the city in its infinite wisdom putting these delays on these lights. And by the way, I don't think it's a bad idea. It actually I think it works well. But the people are adjusting by just saying, oh, well, I know the light's going to be red for another second and a half, so I'm just going to blow through this thing at 50 miles an hour and possibly kill somebody, is what you're really saying to us.
Yeah.
I've never seen. I was driving to work a couple weeks ago, and I'm on a very busy street in the heart of the North Valley, and it's a 6-lane street with a turning lane down the middle of it, and some giant douchebag in a Tesla is flying down the turning lane, going for a mile and a half at 60 as traffic around him is going 30, 35. Down the turning lane that nobody should ever be driving down for a significant amount of time. And he's like, he didn't kill somebody. He drove past 6 schools, on that stretch of road. And it's just very frustrating to see how people are just have no regard for anyone's safety now, driving around their dumb cars. So look, I drive fast. I've always driven fast, but I am a cautious offensive defensive driver. And that's fine, in my opinion, if you're paying attention to what you're doing. But all these people out there driving horribly, not paying attention, into their phones, into their devices or whatever, you are putting everybody at risk. And just where I work right now, there are 5 really high-profile fatal hit and runs ongoing right now, and it's a shame. It really is a shame. And like I said, a cross section of society. This is the rich, the poor, the educated, the uneducated. They're all committing these crimes, and we all need to stop. F off, you hit and run drivers. Thank you, Mike, for that soapbox.
Well played. Yes.
All right. Well, this has been quite a What's Bruin show. Mikey, we hit the hour and a half mark, and
Sweet.
and this is just, coming up with the show at the last minute. I apologize. I'm not going to be able to go back and delete all these kind of clicks in the line. That's what happens when we do this phone shows. So if that was bothersome to you, I apologize in advance. Thank you to the Godfather for sending in his new version of Chip Chimney Chiroo. And other than that, Mikey, do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, we'll see what happens Saturday.
I guess we will.
The following Sunday and in the coming weeks. Because
way to put it.
Exactly. It's like we have drama every week. This is not just a game. This is a soap opera.
It really is. And why you pay attention to it, I will never know, but here we are. We're very tuned in. All right, well, until next time, listen to the postgame after the Crosstown Showdown. It'll probably go up Saturday night or Sunday morning. Please call the hotline, 805-399-4WBS. And until next time, let's beat those men of Troy. Go Bruins, and we'll see you next time.
Later.
Good evening.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
That was the What's Bruin show.
Try us tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel.
It's gotta be in or out, Mom. In or out. Well, I need the door closed.
Thank you for your cooperation.
Dude, bro, we play some ball on the West Coast.
The final word is boob.
What's brewing? News.
Breaking news on a weekly basis.
News just in.
A little bit of bonus time on the What's Bruin show for you at the end here. I now have on the line late in the evening on Thursday night as my daughter and co-host of the Bare Minimum.
The Bare Minimum
is walking away from Haas Pavilion up at Berkeley, and she's walking away from a very sad Cal Bear loss as they fall 60-63. Who are you playing tonight, Megan?
Montana?
Sure.
Michigan?
Whoever it was,
Montana.
it certainly wasn't Michigan. So, you fall to
Montana Cats.
the Montana some cats or another, and you had a chance to tie the game at the last minute, and you threw up a wild three-pointer. You sent me a video of that. What are your thoughts walking out of the pavilion tonight there, Maggie?
Well, Dad, this is one of the most fun times I've had at a game. But, as usual with Cal basketball, it was very depressing because our team, we are always able to kind of be an underdog and pull through to the very end. But at the very end, we always freaking lose. So they always give us hope, and it never really pans out.
Yeah, that is a shame, Meg. I will tell you, your fellow Cal Bear, Jamaal, always says it's the hope that kills him. And I think you definitely feel that with this Bears team. You've been to many close scrapes where you come out on the wrong side of it. But, at the very least, at least you come away with some more swag, right? You got a cup this time. What other giveaways have you already gotten this year, do you think?
I think they've had like a hat, and they usually have shirts. This time they were giving out free tacos. So.
Oh yeah, you got fed at the game, right? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I did.
So yeah.
Swag, because I didn't eat dinner.
Oh, good. Well, there's a bonus, right? You're doing much better than we are over here. Every night we're dropping like $50-$60 on fast food because I come home too late and nobody's here to cook. So there you go.
OMG.
Yeah, your mom has been cooking a lot lately, but this week has been a mess. Okay, well. I haven't published our show, our Bare Minimum, yet from last week when you were here, but that will get published in our feed soon. Hey, well, wouldn't you know?
You're stunting on my fundraisers.
Wouldn't you?
You gave a shout out to the fundraiser, and it's literally going to end by the time you post it.
When's it going to end?
This weekend.
This weekend? What was the fundraiser?
I'm still number 2.
Yeah.
It's for Cal Club softball, which I am a part of.
Well, I'm going to post it today or tonight or tomorrow, and you'll have hopefully a nice finish to the end there. But who didn't notice that their podcast wasn't published?
Me.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't want to hear it. lady. So,
Okay.
yeah. Well, with that being said, I'm not going to keep you on the phone too long because now I have to publish these podcasts and get the word out there. But I'll put the link in the show notes as well. Do me a favor, send that to me so I can easily access it for when I publish this. Okay.
Okay, bro.
Yeah, do that. It's getting late. It's already after. It's almost 10:30 now. So are you going to get to bed because you've been complaining about not getting enough sleep?
Maybe.
Okay. Well, don't waste too much time. And I'm glad you got. When's the next game? Do you know?
I don't, but it's probably going to be during Thanksgiving or like that break, so I don't think I'll be here to see it.
But we're going to go see UCLA versus Cal at the Rose Bowl, so that'll be fun.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so we'll see if it's going to be fun. I don't know. It'll be fun for one of us. All right. Well, It's beautiful to see your smiling face.
You too, Father.
Thank you. Well, okay. Well, I will see you later and go Bears, huh?
Yes.
What do you think of Mark
Bears.
Madsen, real quick?
He's very tall.
He is very tall. Yeah. Well,
He's so funny on the sidelines.
Is he animated?
Yelling at the team.
Yeah.
He's so animated. It's really funny.
Yeah, he was like that as a player, too. You know what his nickname was, right?
No.
Mad Dog.
Oh, that's a cool nickname.
Does it make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, it does. All right. Well, I'm sorry. I commiserate with you, and, my football team sucks, too. So there you go. We can both be miserable together. But get some sleep, and I will see you soon. You're coming home in a couple days, which I'm excited about.
Yes, I am. I'm so excited, bro. I'm so ready to come home.
Good. I'm ready to have you home. All right. Well,
yes.
What do we say? The big game is coming up this weekend. What do we say?
Go Bears. Suck it, Stanford.